Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel. I am Nick from Australia. Tonight's video is going to be my top 10 favourite NRL games of the 2020 NRL season. A couple of weeks ago I did my top 10 best NRL games of 2020 as in terms of quality and the best games of the season. But tonight's video is going to be my top 10 favourite NRL games. Now, these 10 games are my top 10 favourite games of the season that I would love to go back and watch. A lot of them were very entertaining games. Some of them weren't. So some of them were a bit low scoring. Some of these games weren't the best games of footy of the season. But these are just my favourite games. Very entertaining games of footy, and a couple of really good games here as well. But before I get into it, I just want to give a couple of quick shout outs to a couple of YouTubers. I want to give a massive shout out to Rugby League History. Now, if you're not familiar with Rugby League History, it's a YouTube channel called Rugby League History. He's a good mate of mine. He's doing very well for himself. He's about just over 440 subscribers at the moment. He's getting close to 450. If you can subscribe to his channel, try and get him to 500. That would be fantastic. And you know, he's using a phone for his videos because he hasn't got the equipment like everybody else on YouTube. So go and subscribe to Rugby League History if you haven't already. And also, I want to give a quick shout out to a recently new YouTuber. He's been doing a lot of Rugby League Live 4 videos. I want to give a shout out to Beanie Car Sports. Now, Beanie Car Sports is a friend of mine, and he's just started doing YouTube as well. And he's been doing a couple of really good Rugby League Live 4 videos lately. So go and subscribe to Beanie Car Sports and Rugby League History. Now let's get into tonight's agenda. Now, my top 10 favourite NRL games of 2020. You know, there's a lot of great games this year that I really enjoyed to watch. Like I said, you know, I've watched every game of football this year, so it's very hard to put a top 10 together for me, but let's get into it. So we'll start off with number 10 and we'll go through it as it goes. So number 10 is the Manly Seagulls defeating the Sydney Roosters in round 2, where Manly beat the Roosters 9 points to 8 at Leichhardt Oval. It was the first round of football where there was no crowds allowed. This game was at Leichhardt Oval due to obviously the outbreak and what happened. And it was a great game of football to watch. It was an old-fashioned, low-scoring, defensive Saturday afternoon game of footy, and both sides threw everything at each other. Manly beat the Roosters 9-8, and you know, it was a great game because you see some great parts of that game, like Tom Trbojevic, that try-saving tackle on Luke Keary. Tommy Turbo scoring the first try of that game. Cherry Evans kicking the field goal to win it. It just had everything. It was a really good game of footy, low scoring, defensive game of footy. A game of football that I will definitely go and watch again. It was a great game of footy. And you know what? Considering a lot of people hate Manly and the Roosters, you know, at the time, you know, they just won back-to-back premierships. Everyone wants to see the Roosters get beat. A great game of footy between two sides who, well, we all thought Manly were going to have a big year, and we all thought this game would get them going. But unfortunately, it was the complete opposite. But, you know, it was a great game of footy to go and watch. It had everything. Two good sides going at each other, and at the time anyway. But great game of footy, great game of footy, and it was definitely one of my favourite games of the year. So it's number 10 on the list. Number 9 on the list is the West Tigers defeating the Manly Seagulls 34 points to 32 at Brookvale Oval in round 17. Sorry, NRL Vid 090. I know this is a game where he ranted on. Now, Manly led, I think it was 32-18 or something with about 10 minutes to go. And the Tigers came back and won. They scored a try for Adam Dewey. And then Nofaluma scored. And then I think Adam Dewey scored off a Luke Brooks kick with about 2 minutes to go. It was a very entertaining game of football. Very high scoring. A Saturday afternoon game. I think it was a 5:30 Saturday game. Manly looked home for all money. When you're leading 32-18 with about 10 to go, you really should be in control of the game and win the game. But the way the Tigers came back was absolutely fantastic. They come from nowhere. They looked gone. It was one of the great comebacks of the season. And it was a game that I really enjoyed. And it was a very entertaining game of footy that I think a lot of fans would have got a lot of enjoyment out of. But unlucky for Manly not to hold on. But the Tigers got him in the end. And it was a great game of footy. And that is number 9 on the list. Number 8 on the list is the Sharks defeating the Broncos at Suncorp Stadium in round 12, 36 points to 26. Now, this game was very high scoring, very entertaining. Defence was pretty much thrown out the window in this one, and it was a very good game of footy to watch. Now, I remember this game very well. I was at the club watching it, and I won about $350 off this game because I needed Sione Katoa to score and Hamlin Uweli, and I remember Katoa scoring, and then I think Townsend scored, and then I think I was at the pub watching it going, now the Sharks are not going to get this. This multi's gone. And Hamlin Uweli scored with about 2 to go, and none ended up winning the big money. But outside of the money perspective, it was a very entertaining game of football. The Broncos showed up for this game. The Broncos had a poor season, as we all know. I showed up for this game against the Sharks. Defense was thrown out the window. There was a lot of great attacking play in this game. A lot of points. I think it was 16-0 at halftime or something. It was an incredible game. Very high scoring. And, yeah, I enjoyed this game. It was a Friday night game at Suncorp. And, you know, if unfortunately COVID wasn't able to let anyone else go except Queenslanders. But anyway, great game of footy. And the Sharks got the win there. It was a very entertaining game. That is number 8 on the list. Number 7 on the list was Indigenous round, the same round actually, where the Rabbitohs beat the Dragons on the Thursday night at Nostrata Jubilee Oval in round 12. Rabbitohs beating the Dragons 32 points to 24. And I remember this game well. The Dragons led 16-0 early in the game. And then Souths came back. I think it was 16-0 at half time. And Cody Walker scored 2 tries. Alex Johnson got this awesome intercept. Ravalawa scored a good try at the end of the game. It was just a very entertaining Thursday night game between 2 old rivals, Souths and St. George. 2 old rivals from back in the day and still to this day. And, you know, Souths winning 32-24 after being down 16-0 was pretty unbelievable. And considering it was at Nostrata Jubilee, you know, the thing is, you know, when you're down 16-0 against a team that you're playing on the road, you know, it's not easy to win. So for Souths to come back from 16-0 down against the Dragons at Cogra isn't easy. So, you know, a great game of footy, very entertaining, and Souths got the chocolates there, and it was a very entertaining game of football, and it's in my top 10. That's number 7 on the list. Number 6 on the list is a game that I have to put in. The Dragons up against the Bulldogs in round 10 at Wynn Stadium. It was a Saturday afternoon game. Now, I've said the story a few times. The Bulldogs are shit. The Dragons were shit. Both teams were terrible this year. But this game was very entertaining. I think the Bulldogs led 22 points to 10 with about 10 minutes to go. And it was 20-all. And I remember watching the game with my dad. And when the Dogs were up 22-10, Dad walked out of the room. He's like, fuck this. I'm not watching this crap. He walks out. When the Dragons scored to make it 22-16, he comes back in the lounge room. 22-all. We're getting a little bit excited here. We're thinking, here we go. The Dragons could steal this. And there was about 2.5 minutes to go. About 1:30 left on the clock. And Marcelo Montoya drops the ball. Fair dinkum drops the ball. And then Corey Norman picks it up. Runs about 35 metres. Scores. I start recording it on Instagram. On my Instagram page called Nick from Australia. Go and follow it if you haven't already. And I remember Dad just goes, fucking a beauty. And the Dragons win. It was just an unbelievable way. The way they came back. The way the game ended. It was very entertaining. Both sides had a shit season. Both sides were terrible. But it was a very entertaining game. It was a great moment. Great moment for my dad. And the Dragons to win. Where they looked absolutely gone. They looked like shit. And the dead shit himself, Corey Norman, picks up and scores the try. Probably got drunk and took acid after that game, but it was a great moment for the Dragons, and it was just a great entertaining game overall. Now let's get into the top 5. Number 5 on the list is the Raiders beating the Storm at Amy Park in Melbourne in round 3, 22 points to 6. Now, honestly, let me fucking rephrase that. There's nothing better than watching the Melbourne Storm get beat in Melbourne, especially when they get flogged. Now, 22-6 might not be a big flogging, but there's nothing better than watching the Storm get smashed in Melbourne by the Canberra Raiders. Now, the Raiders went down to Melbourne. This was the first round where there was the second round where the NRL returned. And the Raiders went down to Melbourne and they absolutely annihilated Melbourne, 22 points to 6. There was a lot of hype during the week where there was talk about, oh, George Williams this, George Williams that. They were talking about him. And he basically just went, you know what? I'm going to go out there and shut the media up. And he went out there, had an absolute blinder. Had probably the best game, probably one of the best games he's played all year. And he had a huge game. He was outstanding. And the Raiders went down there. They bashed the Storm. They ambushed the Storm. They outplayed them, outclassed them. And it was great to see someone go down there and shut Melbourne up. So that in itself is a favourite game for mine. So that is number 5 on the list. Nothing better than watching Melbourne get beat in Melbourne, honestly. Nothing better. Number 4 on the list is the Cowboys beating the Dragons 23 points to 22 in round 17 up at Queensland Country Bank Stadium. Now, at the time, the Cowboys had lost 9 matches in a row. They looked abysmal. They looked terrible. They looked garbage. They looked like garbage all year anyway. But if the Cowboys had lost this game, that would have been 10 losses in a row. We took on the Dragons side on a Sunday night game up at Townsville, and the Cowboys won in Golden Point, 23 points to 22. Now, it was a very strange game. Scott Drinkwater had a pretty big game here along with Valentine Holmes, and you know, the Dragons were in control at 16-10 at one point, and then we hit back, and I think we were in front 22-20, and then the Dragons kicked a very, very clutch penalty goal from Zach Lomax and to make it 22-all, and then it went to Golden Point, and then Valentine Holmes stepped up to the plate, kicked the field goal and won the game, and the Cowboys got away with the win, 23-22, breaking the losing streak and finally winning a game. If they had lost, it would have been 10 losses in a row, which would have been very embarrassing, and it would have probably got the Cowboys closer to the wooden spoon. But it was a game that I loved because it was against my dad. You know, me versus my dad. It's a bit of a rivalry between me and my dad every time our teams play each other. Cowboys Dragons up in Townsville. Cowboys come away with the chocolates. I'm happy, and it's number 4 on the list. Now, number 3 on the list is the Eels defeating the Raiders at Bankwest Stadium in round 7 on the Saturday night game, with the Eels won 25 points to 24. Now, Parramatta lost their halfback, Mitchell Moses, at halftime due to injury. Dylan Brown pretty much went to halfback. Gulverson went to 5'8". I think Ferguson went to fullback from memory. And, you know, Parramatta led 24-12 here, and they looked like they were going to win this game easily. And then Canberra came back. Elliot Whitehead scored a great try, and then it was 24-18. Then Elliot Whitehead put on this huge dummy, ran down the field, on the inside to Chance Nickel-Klokstad. He scores, and it's 24-all, goes to Golden Point, and then Clint Gutherson, kicks the field goal in Golden Point, wins the game without their halfback pretty much all second half, and the Eels win 25-24. It was a great game of footy, very entertaining, 2 quality sides going at it, and it was just good to see Parramatta get a win without their main halfback. So, a great moment for Parramatta, and a great game of footy overall, and definitely one of my favourites of the year. So it goes to number 3 on the list. Number 2 on the list is the Melbourne Storm beating the Roosters 27-25 in round 8 up at Suncorp Stadium. This game had absolutely everything. One of the best games of the season, to be honest. I think I rated it as the best game of the year. It had everything, you know. Yeah, it was 24-all, I think it was. And then there was a field goal from Kyle Flanagan. Roosters up 25-24. And then a late field goal. Melbourne goes short. They get the ball back. Then a late field goal from, I think it was Ryan Pappenhausen. 25-all. Goes to Golden Point. Anyone's game. Anything could happen. Jake Friend gives away a penalty. Melbourne win the game 27-25. A shit way to lose a game of football, but very entertaining. High quality game. And it is number 2 on the list for that reason. And number 1, my favourite game of the 2020 NRL season was in round 20 at Suncorp Stadium, where the Cowboys defeated the Brisbane Broncos scum 32 points to 16, and we gave the Broncos their first ever wooden spoon. Now, if the Broncos had beat us, the Bulldogs would have won the wooden spoon, I believe. I've got to double check that. But anyway, the final round of the season, the Cowboys had nothing to play for but pride. The Broncos were trying to avoid the wooden spoon. And early on in the game, I think the Broncos had 10-0 or something. The Cowboys looked absolutely fucked. They looked gone. I remember sitting there watching the game on the lounge, sitting there all quiet, not saying a word, sitting there about to just explode. And then at one point, I think I got up and threw something because I went, nah, this game's over. And then when we finally scored, we were in the game, and we ended up coming over the top of the Broncos and beating them 32 points to 16. And there was a great try in that game where Valentine Holmes made a break, and he gave it to the hammer, Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow. He ran about 70 metres and scored, pretty much sealed the deal. And the Cowboys defeating their big rivals, the Broncos, up at Suncorp Stadium in the final round, embarrassing them in front of their own fans, especially up there in Brisbane. It's always good winning up there, and giving them their first wooden spoon. So there's nothing more I like than watching the Broncos get beat, and nothing more than I love watching Melbourne get beat in Melbourne as well. But anyway, the Cowboys beating the Broncos in the last round was my favourite game of 2020. And that was pretty much my top 10, guys. Let me know your top 10 favourite NRL games in the comment section below. Also, if you want to support the channel, you can donate via PayPal. There is going to be a description, or there'll be a link in the description below. So if you want to donate to the channel and support the channel any way you can, then feel free to do so in the description below. But anyway, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you guys go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Let me know your top 10 favourite NRL games of 2020 in the comment section below. Anyway, guys, I'm getting out of here. Have a fantastic Tuesday night. And I'll see you guys tomorrow night for another video. Anyway, guys, until then, stay safe. I'll see you guys later.